Welcome to The Explainer. You know that feeling of being completely and totally drained? Like you're just running on empty with nothing left to give? Well, you're definitely not alone. Today, we're going to break down insights from health experts and scientific studies to build a super practical guide for beating that mental exhaustion.
So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to define the problem that so many of us are facing. Then, we'll introduce a really powerful 7-day reset. We'll dive into the 3 core pillars that make it all work: stabilizing your body, clearing your mind, and finding your focus. And finally, we'll talk about how to make these changes actually stick.
All right, first things first, let's really get to know the enemy here. We're talking about that deep, down-in-your-bones kind of tired that's way more than just needing a good night's sleep.
So, what is burnout, really? It's not just having a bad week at work. It's a specific state of complete exhaustion. We're talking emotional, physical, and mental. And it all comes from being under way too much stress for way too long. It's that feeling of being completely overwhelmed, emotionally tapped out, and just unable to keep up.
And if this sounds familiar, get this. You are in the vast majority. A huge study from Gallup found that 76% of workers feel burnout at some point. So this isn't some personal failure, okay? It's a systemic issue in our modern world.
Now, this is a really crucial distinction, and it's one we often get wrong. Stress and burnout are not the same thing. In fact, they're kind of opposites. Stress is about being overengaged. Too much to do, too much pressure. You're frantic. Burnout is what happens after that. It's disengagement. It's that feeling of being totally empty, like the well has run dry.
Okay, so we know what the problem is. Now, what do we do about it? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. We need to hit a reset button. Let's look at how a short, structured break can completely reboot your system.
You know, the reason a 7-day reset is so powerful is because it feels achievable, right? It's not some vague goal like be less tired. It's a concrete 1-week plan. That short time frame breaks the cycle of exhaustion, and frankly, it lights a little fire under you to actually commit to it.
And this quote, it just perfectly captures the spirit of what this reset is all about. It's not about complicated life hacks or anything like that. It's about getting back to the basics, reconnecting with the simple things, starting with our own bodies and the world around us.
So our first pillar kind of flips the usual advice on its head. Instead of trying to think our way out of exhaustion, we're going to start with a physical foundation. The strategy is simple. Get your body stable and your mind will have a much easier time following along.
And we have to start with the most important physical input there is: sleep. We hear all sorts of conflicting advice, right? 8 hours, 9 hours. But what does the science actually say? What's the real magic number for a healthy brain?
Well, the science is surprisingly specific on this. After analyzing data from almost 500,000 people, researchers found a definite sweet spot for sleep. And that magic number, the one linked to the best brain performance, it's 7.
And here's the really crucial part of that study. It's not just about getting enough sleep. Turns out more isn't always better. The data showed that brain performance actually went down for every hour you slept above or below 7. So think of it like a curve, and 7 hours is right at the peak.
Now, just as important as how we rest is how we fuel our bodies, and this is where things get really fascinating. There's this incredible connection between our gut and our brain. In fact, get this, about 95% of our body's serotonin, the chemical that keeps our mood stable, is made in our gut, not our brain.
So how do you eat for a happier brain? Well, it pretty much boils down to these 3 categories. You want complex carbs like sweet potatoes for energy that lasts. You need lean proteins like fish or nuts for sharp thinking. And you've got to have those healthy fatty acids from things like salmon to keep your whole brain and nervous system running smoothly.
Okay, so once our body is on a more stable footing, we can move up to the next layer. Pillar 2 is all about clearing out all that mental clutter. That internal noise that just drains our energy.
Here's a super simple but incredibly effective technique you can use anytime you feel stressed. It's just 3 steps. First, just breathe. It literally calms your nervous system down. Second, analyze the situation and realize the only thing you can truly control is your own reaction. And third, try to find the lesson. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this?
I love this quote because it just perfectly captures the goal here. The point isn't to stop having feelings. You can't stop the waves from coming, right? But with practice, you can learn to choose which waves you're going to ride, instead of just getting tumbled around by them.
And that brings us to our third and final pillar, finding your focus. This is where we move from just recovering from burnout to actually preventing it in the future. It's all about reconnecting with the things that give you a sense of purpose and energy.
At the end of the day, this whole pillar really comes down to one big question. What gets you out of bed in the morning? Seriously, finding your answer to that, your why, is one of the most powerful defenses you can build against burnout.
And one of the best ways to find that why is to find your flow. You know that feeling when you're so into something that you totally lose track of time? Psychologists call that a state of flow, and you can find it anywhere. Gardening, playing an instrument, cooking, sports. It's that amazing feeling of being completely absorbed in what you're doing.
So, you've done it. You've made it through the 7 days, and you're feeling so much better. But now what? This last part is honestly the most important part of all. How do you make this feeling last? You've got to see this for what it is. The 7-day reset isn't a magic cure. It's a method to reboot your entire internal operating system. It's your chance to clear out the old habits that led to burnout in the first place and install a new, healthier system that lets you be sharper, more focused, and more present in your life.
And we'll leave you with this final question. Because a full system reboot, yeah, that can sound like a lot. But real, lasting change never happens in one giant leap. It always starts with one small, intentional step. So what's yours going to be?